Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for April 1st. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is John. How you doing, John?
Taran, I'm doing great. You know, he has risen. He has risen indeed. And by that, I mean, I think Ryan just woke up like 5 minutes ago. So he's up and around in the house.
Tricky stuff. We are here to talk to you about everything happening on the Big Brother Canada 6 feeds yesterday. And we're not going to trick you. There's no tricks, no fools in this podcast, except for maybe me, I guess. So we're gonna talk to you about everything that was going on yesterday. Bit of a slower day, as it usually tends to be. I think on after the nominations, pre veto competition. It's just kind of like, well, we can't really do much until the veto happens because it's a scary time. This period of time is like all of the time when there's a lot of twists, because they're like, well, we can't do anything until the twists happen. But still some interesting stuff.
You'd really have to be a very, very, very bad player to make any big moves during this little moment, because anything that you say could be completely undone or untrue, in 5 minutes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like I said, bit of a slower day, but we start out the day. Erica lets Marin know she will be putting him and Ryan up on the block, and Marin was like, "Nah, but why?" He's like, just tell me it's not because you don't know where my head is at. She's like, no, that's not why. It's because nobody cares about you. That's basically,
which is much better.
That was basically, yeah. This is the move that makes the least amount of people mad. Sorry, dude.
Honestly, I feel like Marin kind of has made his bed at this point where it's like he's that player, or he's seen as that player in the house, and it sucks. Like, you don't necessarily want to be the go-to sort of veto, or not veto, the go-to sit on the block, pawn. But at this point, like, that's the player he's seen as, and I think it's better to be that than to because now, he's becoming sort of Erica's target, right? And so, like, the fact that he's starting to raise more of a stink about it, like, I think that's going to make him look worse in her eyes. Like, it's going to push that agenda farther.
Yes, so they do in fact go up on the block. The feeds go down and then back up for the nomination ceremony. And Ryan and Marin have been nominated for eviction. Ryan talks to Erica afterward. He says, "Man, the last time I was put up on the block, I felt very uncomfortable. This time, though, man, you are such a great nominator. I feel much more comfortable. I trust you. You know what you're doing when you nominate me."
I'm really excited for the rest of this week when Ryan starts to coach Erica on how to best get Ryan out, because that's like sort of the next iteration of his prowess as the best BB coach that we've ever seen. Is he's going to start to be like, listen, Erica, I'm a much bigger target, and so the best move for you as HOH historically in Big Brother would be to target me, and I think that's the best move for you. So we should all be working to get me out.
Yeah, and here are the arguments you should be using. See, I am coming after this person and this, yeah. So very quickly, though, Liv, Erica, and Ali have a conversation where Erica talks to them about how she does, in fact, want Marin gone. This is gonna eventually lead to a little bit of conflict that will be brewing today. I think today as in yesterday, and then today as in today. I think we're going to see the results of that as we see some campaigning for these two on the block. But Erica lets Ali and Liv know, I want Marin gone. And they're like, oh, yeah, totally. That's fine. And Liv talks about, oh, we're in such a great spot. We're in the middle. We don't even need to win HOH anymore. We want the two sides to go after each other, the showmans and the trio of Paris, Will, and Maddie. And we still feel pretty good about Johnny. Once that trio kind of gets hit, he'll be more loyal to us, and that'll make us very happy, because everyone just wants Johnny's allies gone, but Johnny to stay so that Johnny can work with them, because they just love Johnny for some reason.
He's the belle of the ball.
Yeah. It's like it's like, like one of those, like there's a guy who's like really nerdy in a movie, and he sees like the cheerleader and she's with the football player, and he's just like, no, kill the football player, get rid of him, I want to date the cheerleader. That's like everybody with Johnny. Like they don't blame Johnny for being in all these relationships, they just want all of the other people gone so they can date him.
Wait, so is Johnny the cheerleader in this situation? Okay, I can
Yes.
see it. Although I can't think of the movie that you're thinking of where people violently murder football players. I don't know what kind of
I watched
movies
too
you're
many horror
watching,
movies,
Taran.
maybe.
Jeez.
Erica also, this was an interesting bit here. Erica, as you may remember, had a conversation with Paris the night before where Paris talked about not trusting Allie, giving Erica some information that kind of confirmed what she had heard from Johnny about Allie, that Allie was being very sketchy. And Paris was like, other than that, I'm cool with you for sure. And Erica decides to tell Allie and Olivia none of that. She says, Paris is good. Paris is all good. She was really into this alliance last night when I talked to her. You should feel good about Paris, which tells me that what Johnny and then Paris said about Allie definitely stuck. She is keeping it from Allie, and she is definitely very cautious about it in the future. So Allie needs to be a little worried, I think.
Yeah, this we see this again and again this season where like this player sort of becomes a high profile person, and then sort of dips under. And like a lot of people were saying last week, I remember the last time I did an update with you, that Allie was sort of the new dark horse sort of candidate for like the best player, or the a player doing really well because no one was talking about her. And then it's almost like clockwork. It's like every time you guys buy stock on somebody in one of the LFC updates, like now the people are saying like, oh, Allie's playing really well. Then like in the house, she starts to kind of pull her head up a little bit. And this is a house where you don't want to be that person, right? You want to like, there's this sort of like atmosphere in the house where like what the house wants is the house is always going to go after the showmance later. Like the one thing that everyone publicly is okay with is like at some point we got to go after the showmance. And then like everyone else needs to sort of be underneath that cloud of subterfuge. And like whenever anyone kind of pokes their head up a little bit, they start to get noticed. And that's kind of what's happening with Allie right now.
Yeah, Stephanie in the chat says they related Johnny to Ryan from High School Musical. So maybe that's the genre I'm referring to.
Yeah, how many murders happened in High School Musical?
If probably a lot of them. Like people got murdered by songs.
I believe.
Like, actually, you just got killed by that.
I think I remember reading that someone in real life that was in High School Musical like murdered somebody. So maybe that's what you're thinking about.
I think that was Glee.
Man, these are all the same thing to me. What do you think I watch? I don't know. This is not my forte.
All right. So they end up picking the veto players. It's going to be Erica, Ryan, Marin, Allie, Maddie, and Johnny playing in this veto. And that will be interesting to see who wins that once we tell you what happens later on.
Yeah, we'll see. I know I would put my chips on one player in particular, just going into this.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't know the outcome.
Ryan campaigns to some people. He's going around and asking, hey, look, if nothing changes, do I have your vote? And people are saying, yes, you do. He right now feels like his most solid votes are Paris, Maddie, Will, and Johnny. And then Erica is a tiebreaker in that situation of a 4-4 vote. At the minimum, he feels like that is his safety net, which is actually pretty accurate,
right.
Coming from Ryan. Surprising to see the nominee actually know which votes he actually has.
Well, and also that specifically Erica would vote in his to save him in a tiebreaker, which is funny. I remember last week Erica, when she was HOH last time, she was saying like, oh my god, why did I have to win an HOH on a tiebreaker, on an even numbered vote, and then here she comes again, she's doing it again. So clearly she's okay with it to some degree.
Yes. So Kayla and Derek have a conversation, and they are discussing that they want Ryan gone. Kayla in particular, she wants Ryan to go. She knows that Ryan is on to the Kayla Allie Liv connection. She knows that Ryan has talked about coming after them in the past. And she thinks that Marin is useless and can't win anything. So obviously it makes sense for her to keep Marin in the house. And so it's shaping up to look like a sort of little battle between Kayla and Erica, even though really she'll probably be battling Johnny and she won't know it, as it usually is.
Right. The power behind the throne.
That'll be. Yes, exactly. Olivia and Maddie have a conversation. Liv also kind of wants Ryan gone, and she's fishing a little here with Maddie, asking who Maddie wants to go. Maddie says she would prefer for Marin to go. She thinks Erica has the right idea, that anybody sitting next to Marin will leave, and that's dangerous. So taking Marin out would be very good. And normally that argument, I think, doesn't hold any weight in a Big Brother house, because the alliances are usually set. It doesn't matter who you're up against on the block. It just matters who you're associated with. However, in this house that is so fluid, that is so willing to change on a dime, who you're sitting up next to really does make a dramatic difference. It doesn't really matter often who the HOH's target is, as long as there's a majority of the house who has an individual relationship with you that feels like you're valuable enough to keep them, then you can probably be safe. And or what I really mean by that is, as long as Johnny wants to keep you, then you're probably safe. As tell that to Veronica. But for everyone else, I do think this is a more valid argument in this house than in most other houses. But it's still kind of a weak argument to make, I think, to people who have a vested interest.
Well, there are so many meta levels of gameplay in the game of Big Brother, and I don't mean meta world peace. I mean, like, just in terms of the fact that the very nature of saying we must get rid of Marin because anyone sitting next to Marin will go home because no one will ever vote Marin out. That's like a paradoxical statement, because therefore, if you target Marin and send him home, then your entire presupposition for that sort of logical argument is false, because then Marin went home against somebody else. But like, that's just, that's what makes this game fun to talk about, and it makes it possible for you to spend an hour talking to yourself Gollum style about a show, is that there are these meta levels of gameplay, because you can say, well, we have to target Marin because no one else will go home if Marin's still in the house, and then therefore that is a valid reason to send him home. And then, yeah, like you said too, there's these levels of, it's like, well, who is the HOH aligned with, and as long as it's what Johnny wants, and then who is the person sitting next to, and when they're it's funny, like this combination of Marin and Ryan on its surface is sort of boring. It's a boring week. It's like two bumps on a log sitting next to each other. But it's actually turning into this interesting thing, because it's like sort of the different power structures in the house, like these two factions have basically picked like a Trojan horse to back, where it's like these are two like useless players, but then it's like, where's the power in the house going to go? Like, which side of the alliance is going to shoot a shot, across the bow of the other alliance, where it's like the actual people, Ryan and Marin, like, who cares? But it's like, where the power in the house, like who ends up, going and being targeted, that will tell the Johnnies, in the shadows, sort of like where the other alliances are going to go from here.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the paradox of targeting somebody in Big Brother is like it's like the Shannon Elizabeth, like, you are the greatest player, Big Brother player of all time. You are so dangerous and deadly and convincing in this house, and that's why everyone has agreed to get you out. Like,
right.
If that's the case, then they're not that great, are they?
Well, when you break it down to that level, then nothing is true in the strategy Big Brother. Exactly. Because the people who are good players get targeted, which means that they get sent home, which means they're not good players. And the people who don't get targeted, it's because they're so bad at playing the game, which is why we talk about, certain players as the greatest players of all time, when in reality, like, if you look at their quote unquote resume, they didn't do anything. Whereas certain players that are considered bad players, they win stuff all the time. Like, there's this disconnect between the idea of who's playing well and who's not playing well. And, that all comes to a head at the argument at the end of the season. That's why you have like the whole jury thing, is theoretically so that you can say like, yeah, I never did anything all season. That's why you should vote for me.
Well, yeah, it's the people that you don't realize are playing a good game, or the people that you do realize are playing a good game, but you're unwilling to target them. Those are the people you really need to be worried about.
Or you're unable to in the case of Erica, who's only been in danger or able to be nominated for like 2 hours this entire game.
Yes. And basically almost anyone on this season should be taking a shot at Erica at the earliest opportunity, because
but that may never happen. She may continue to just never be eligible.
Yeah, and because like you just saw what Kevin did, and you have no guarantee that Big Brother Canada has changed up the competitions to be not gameable like that. Right. And I'm not taking that risk if I am that house. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So Maddie is talking. She thinks Erica has the right idea. She thinks Ryan can stay. Ryan, she feels like he'll sink his own ship eventually. He'll talk his way out of the house at some point. Marin, he's so dangerous because anyone that sits next to him will go home. So then Olivia talks to Kayla, and there she finds the person. Kayla's like, yeah, I want Ryan to go. And Liv is like, yes, I agree. I think more dangerous. I think that Marin is useless. I think that Ryan, Liv especially, is like, Ryan has been talking about harboring resentment toward me for nominating him. Ryan is onto us as a group. She's onto our sort of, he was talking about Kayla and Liv and Allie. They must be in an alliance. So they are thinking, how do we change Erica's mind? How do we get Erica on board with taking Ryan out? Do we go to her as a group? Like, what do we say to her? How do we make this happen? And they decide they're going to at some point, but they need to wait until the veto is played. So they know for sure that these people are going to be on the block, and then they can try and convince Erica that Ryan needs to go.
So we'll talk about sort of how this has fallen out, and we know the veto results. But I would say, sort of in a vacuum, my observation of Erica so far this season, I feel like the way you get to her and the way you get her to change her mind is that, like, what are her two big things? What are her weaknesses? Her weaknesses are that she keeps winning things, which means she's like a hardcore competitor, and that she clearly, like what we saw last week, was that she doesn't like when people lie to her face. So I feel like the ways that you would get her to switch her vote or her target would be to either convince her that Ryan is at some point going to be a competition threat, which on the surface sounds kind of silly, but we have seen just in the last week that he does have a little bit of chops when it comes to that. And then the other thing would be to either create a situation where Ryan lies to Erica, or at least you convince Erica that Ryan has lied to her. I would say, in a vacuum, that would be my strategy if I were, one of those girls. Like, how would you get Erica to change her mind? Because those seem to be her triggers, are lying to your face and like threats to your, physical abilities.
Yes, I also think that because Erica wants more targets in the house, you have to say, no, we really want Marin out, but we feel like Ryan is the best move this week. Then we'll go after Marin next week because Marin has pissed us off. We still want Marin gone. She needs to think that, no, people are not just going to forget about Marin, and he's not just going to be somebody that nobody looks at anymore.
But I think that fulfills her prophecy.
I don't know
that's her worry. Erica keeps saying, my worry is that every time Marin goes up, he'll just be saved for the next week, and the person next to him will go home. So I would argue that that's a bad argument, because if you go at Erica and you say that, then in her head she goes, that's what I'm trying to say. That's the exact thing that you just said to me is what I'm worried about with Marin. If I were Erica, I would double down and be like, that's why he has to go now, because of the thing you just said.
Well, but to remind her that he's still a target, like, as opposed to, if they say, well, Ryan is a bigger threat, she'll go, yeah, that's why I want him in the game and Marin gone, because look, he's like, Ryan is a threat next to Marin. That's what everybody looks like next to Marin. And if we take out Ryan now, when are we going to get Marin out? And that's the question that Johnny asks as well. So I don't know. I think it's a tricky thing. I think you have to be very, very careful about how you approach Erica with this, because her logic is sound, and I think she's making the correct decision for her game.
Definitely.
And so Kayla and Allie have a similar conversation about how they want to target Ryan. So then Allie and Liv come together, and Allie, she first of all, she wants to. She's considering making up a lie about Ryan and approaching Erica with it to get Ryan out, and that like maybe that's the way. But again, I'm not sure what that lie is. Maybe that Ryan is coming after her, but that's dangerous stuff. But Allie is feeling like she's playing really well. Allie's feeling pretty good about her game right now. She's talking to Liv, and she's like, you know Derek from season 16. Derek was a great player. He sent people home and never got any blood on his hands, and he was a mastermind, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And by we, she means I. And she's feeling she is basically she's feeling a little bit of Bradley here from Survivor. Like I'm like a mixture of like Dan Giesling and Derek Levasseur. That's kind of my game right now. She didn't say she's a mixture of Dan, but that's what makes sense.
If anyone who's watching this or who listens to this in the future, if you ever end up on any of these, reality competition shows, that is a comparison that other people, first of all, you don't want them to think that. Like, you don't want people to start thinking of you that way in the first place, because then suddenly you're like, yeah, that's true. We really need to get rid of you if that's the case. But then other than that, like, if someone, outside of the game, if someone's like, that person was a great player, they're like the next iteration of this, then it's a compliment. If you call yourself Derek, then it comes off as like conceited at best, and at worst delusional. You know what I mean? That's not for you to make that comparison. Like, you don't want to compare yourself to one of the greats. That is meaningless. You want other people to do that, preferably after the game is over.
Yes, that's the tricky, because we've seen a lot of seasons where people like Steve is like Vanessa is the Derek, or Josh is like Paul is the Derek, or Nicole saying Derek is the Dan.
Or Shannon Elizabeth,
people pointing out that. Yes, yeah. People pointing out that other people are that person. You don't want to point it out yourself. That's like the worst possible thing. And if this gets out, that's like one of those lines where it's like, oh yeah, she compared herself to Derek. She thinks she's playing Derek's game. Whether or not she is, that's dangerous stuff. And the tricky part about it is that she was just like caught yesterday. Just yesterday, she was caught, and she's in a bit of trouble. And now this is the moment where she's feeling the highest on her game, the most comfortable, the most confident. And if she tries to make up a lie about Ryan, I think she will get caught, because Erica is not primed to believe it from her right now. Erica will investigate. If she discovers that Allie is in fact lying, then that's a big red flag. That's alliance destroying stuff right there, John.
Yeah, when you get comfortable, that's when you get sloppy, and that's just true in the game and also in life. Like, it sucks to be the underdog with your back against the wall, but that's when you're thinking the most sort of clearly. Like, because Allie has been doing decently, and because she hasn't been a target, now she's getting comfortable, she's getting bored, and so she's getting sloppy. And so we see it time and time again, week after week, season after season. It's when you get comfy, you get sloppy, and then that's when you get your head cut off.
Yeah, I always worry about my head getting cut off anytime I
all those comfy. With all those nerds coming after you because of your relationships with the cheerleaders.
It's dangerous stuff. All right. So they play the power of veto. The feeds go down. And when they come back up, we have a new winner of the power of veto. It's Johnny. Johnny won the power of veto, John.
Here's Johnny.
And yeah. Look, I'm not happy about this, Johnny. You did not need to win this veto. You did not need to remind people that you're good at competitions. I think this is a mistake.
Yeah, well, what was it? Hamza last week was talking to Erica and was like, me and you and Johnny are the only ones who win anything. And now Hamza's gone. And so what have we had since Hamza has left? We've had Erica winning a thing and Johnny winning a thing. So yeah, I would agree, where it's like, I mean, who else has won a thing this season? Like, Johnny's one of the only other people. It's a very small roster. And so, yeah, now he won't get nominated this week. But again, that's now he's going to be on people's radar. It's like I was saying with Allie a second ago, or we've talked kind of on and off again this season about Paris. Just like when you're under the radar, stay there. At least there's still a lot of game left, right? There's 10 people left in the house, 9 now. There's still a lot of game left. You don't want to be coming up yet.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I saw someone say that like at this point now, Erica and Johnny together have won over half of the competitions in the house.
Yeah,
and it's just like not like they have done a good job of not associating themselves with each other in the way that like nobody's talking about Erica and Johnny as a pair, but just their competition prowess alone kind of makes them a pair. And then people remember, oh, they also have a really good relationship. They're the most dangerous pair in the house. And then I obviously think that Erica goes before Johnny, but Johnny doesn't want to be in a position where if Erica wins the veto, he's going home because Erica's very good at winning vetoes. So I do not like this from Johnny. He did not need this at all. It's got look, the people on the block right now are Ryan and Marin. Who cares who goes home there? Obviously, Johnny has a preference, but it has to be a minor preference, and he has no worry that Erica is going to put him on the block this week. So just let somebody else have this.
Yeah, I would say, especially Johnny, who we've been complimenting a lot this season for having a good read on the house and also being one of these sort of shadowy players in the background. Like, he really should know that he's not at risk of going up in the event that somebody wins and pulls Marin or Ryan off. Like, he is not even in the top. He's not even in the short list, for people to be a replacement. So yeah, it only hurts him to have won this thing. I honestly could see a situation, and it might be kind of cool to see because we've seen it like with that Kevin Martin, where it's like you have to win out at the end. But it would be kind of interesting to see where like if Erica and Johnny continue to just keep winning back and forth, and then it gets down to this point where they kind of have to team up as like these two people who are just these people who only win things. And so they have to like sort of back each other up. And we get sort of like a double Kevin Martin where like they both have to win out at the end and work together because like you said, they do have a good relationship. And at some point, even if they aren't like this tight final two type thing, if the house starts seeing them as it's either Erica or Johnny who's going to win every single thing, they're going to start lumping the two of them together anyway. And so like to come out from behind that, there may be a situation farther down the road where they kind of have to start working more tightly together to keep the shade off of each other's backs. Because even if they aren't their favorites, the two of them, like, it would behoove Erica to keep Johnny around as another comp piece. Then it would behoove Johnny to keep Erica around as another comp piece. Like they're working towards this conjunction where they're going to have to start working together because of their resumes.
Yeah, and anybody that knows the history of Big Brother Canada, again, you can't assume that these competitions are going to change up, and you have to know that season 1, Jillian and Emmett won back to back. That's how they got to the end. Season 3, Sarah and Brittany won a bunch and got a bunch of twists.
Right.
And they were like immune from like final 8 on. Season 4, the brothers and Kelsey won a lot back to back, and that's how they got to the end. And then obviously season 5, Kevin managed to do it all on his own, but same concept. But the history of Big Brother Canada is littered with pairs that are very good at competitions, just dominating the end of the game. And you have to be looking at Johnny and Erica and being like, oh man, are they dangerous?
Which is it's funny because sort of the zeitgeist in the house is that the dangerous pair to look at is Derek and Kayla because they're in a showmance. And, as you yourself said yesterday, you have Derek being the social half of that relationship, and then Kayla being sort of the strategic half of that relationship, which is true. But I mean, none of that matters if, one or two of Erica and Johnny continue to just win forever.
Yes. So, Johnny, I feel like Johnny's getting a little comfortable, and again, this is theoretically a minor mistake. I think Johnny's still playing far and away the best game in the house right now. But I think if Johnny moves from people talking about him like, oh, he's good with everyone, he's kind of a threat, but we all want him on our side, to oh no, he's dangerous, I think this might be the moment that we look back at and say, oh, Johnny, you really didn't need that. So we'll see. We'll see.
Any amount of power that you get, whether it's HOH or veto, that forces you to show a little bit more of your hand because, and again, we were saying that this week's kind of like duds when it comes to the nominees in terms of Marin and Ryan, but what they represent is two sort of separate power structures in the House. And so Johnny now, has to save one or the other or none of them, and that will show a little bit of his hand. That will show where his allegiance lies. And that's not good with a player like Johnny. You want to keep all of that on lock.
Yes. So the other important thing in terms of the vote this week is that Ryan came, I believe, in second place in this veto competition. Yet again, doing well in a competition, making it seem like he is a little bit more of a threat than not. So that's something that Kayla and Liv and Allie are going to use against him when it comes to the vote. And right away, Allie, when the feeds come back, Allie is already working on Paris, saying that Ryan should go, that Ryan is more dangerous, and Paris is agreeing. But who knows? Paris usually agrees with whatever the person says. We'll have to see where her head is at tomorrow. And then Liv is also trying to work on Johnny, and she's throwing the idea out there. Well, what if we took out Ryan instead? But of course, Johnny is like, nah. And he flips it right around. He says, well, Marin's never going to go home if he doesn't go home now. When is Marin going to go home? And unlike Maddie, Johnny just immediately gets through to Liv, and she's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. You're totally right. And so Liv then takes that to Allie and Kayla and starts arguing Johnny's case, saying, when will we send Marin home? Should we be sending Ryan home? What's going on here? And Kayla's like, no, because Marin can't win. Ryan can. We gotta be careful of Ryan. So it is shaping up to look like Johnny will be pushing back. Kayla will be pushing in the other direction, and we're gonna see hopefully an interesting week of back and forth between which power in the House decides who ends up going home.
I think another interesting sort of way to think about this whole Marin argument is like, yes, maybe it's true. Maybe Marin won't go home if he doesn't go home this week. Maybe no one would ever waste an HOH or waste a vote on Marin. But look towards the end of the game. Who would vote for Marin to win in the end? Or in a final three scenario, is Marin going to win the final three HOH? Those are things that I don't think seem very likely either. Like Marin has not won any competitions. He hasn't been too terribly close to winning any competitions. And even though everyone kind of likes him, I don't see a situation where anyone in the House is so hated that you get a bitter jury and someone votes for Marin to win. So I think if you're someone who wants Ryan to go over Marin, I think that those are sort of arguments you can make too, where it's like, he's kind of a waste of space. Like Marin is almost sort of like a Victoria, where it's like, he's not going to be somebody that you need to worry about winning against you or taking you out at any given point.
Yes. So Maddie and Will also have a conversation where Maddie is talking to Will about saying that Marin going home is going to be good for them. Will agrees with that. So right now stands, the vote is still very much up in the air. Erica, Johnny, Maddie, Will all on board to take Marin out. Liv a little bit in the middle. She ultimately says she'll do what the women want over what Johnny and Erica wants. But if Erica really just puts her foot down, then that might shut the plan down with the women. But Liv, Allie, Kayla right now all want Ryan gone. Derek obviously is with them as well in terms of wanting that. And then Paris also, I think, will side with wanting Marin gone with Maddie and Will, but she may end up deciding to go in the other direction. She gave Marin a pep talk earlier in the day about winning the veto. So I'm not entirely sure where Paris stands, but I think she'd prefer to not go against what Erica wants. If Erica says, I want Marin out, I think Paris will go along with that. If she feels like the numbers are there. If she feels like the numbers aren't there, then of course she'll go because that's Paris. But right now the House is pretty split in terms of where people are siding. I think the save Ryan contingent is a little bit in the evict Ryan contingent, but the save Ryan contingent has both the HOH and Johnny, and I feel like those are the some of the heavy hitters here in terms of persuasiveness. So we're just gonna have to see where this ends up, John.
Yeah, this is someone that we haven't talked a lot about, but you just mentioned is Will. I remember, not even 2 or 3 days ago, we were talking about how Will was going to be in a lot of trouble because he lost Erica and Hamza sort of in one fell swoop. And now it's like, where's he going to go? He would be an obvious target to send home. People were talking about before the double eviction that he might be someone to go home in the double. And now we have, once again, another situation, just like all the other players we talked about, where it's like, Will hasn't really even been in the conversation very much this week about it being a target or, being a replacement nom.
Well, I mean, he had. I think they talked about Will before Erica was talking about nominating Will
Right.
potentially, and then Maren brought him up, and Erica's been talking about him a lot, and Kayla has been talking about Will as a potential nominee. I think Will is definitely in like he's to that tier in terms of he's getting targeted soon.
Okay, good point. Fair enough. But I guess what I'm saying is that he's not on the block right now. So he's going to make it, another week. And so, who is he going to end up sort of working with, or will he just be the next person to go? Either way, very interesting week ahead, where after the initial nominations, we were kind of thinking like maybe this wouldn't be the greatest week. But I think it's going to turn into a very interesting week because the ramifications for, who makes the most persuasive argument to send home, I think is much more interesting and has bigger implications than the actual person who gets sent home this week.
Yes. Yeah. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say I think Kayla might take this round against Johnny. I think that just like it's a losing battle trying to save Ryan. I think Ryan has pissed so many people off, and Maren is just so useless. I do think that the chances of Ryan going home are better than the chances of Maren going home this week. But we will find out soon enough.
Yep, it's already, what is it, right. Sunday? Monday's coming up. It's a whole new week.
All right. So I believe that's all we have for you today. Like I said, I mean, maybe it was a day, but we'll talk about Canada 6 is a big day on any other season or any other recent season at least. So lots of stuff coming up. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, where we will update you again on everything happening on the feeds today. And then tomorrow night, Rob will be live after the Monday night episode of Big Brother Canada 6. And then the night after, we will have our LFC Roundtable podcast, where we will be buying stock and talking about the house and the strategy, the state of the strategy over the course of the week. So lots of fun stuff headed your way. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. John is at John Kraus. And we'll see you next time.
You know what, Taran? It's always a pleasure to do a morning update with you, and that's no April Fool's.
There was an April Fool's. I'm sorry. I ended up lying to you guys. All right, bye.